Governments everywhere are offering subsidies to promote things such as wind energy and electrically powered cars, but is it really the best use of our energy dollar? Bradley Doucet is with the Montreal Economic Institute. He's also one of the co-authors of the new study that looks at the cost of Quebec's energy choices. So first off, maybe you could explain to me, so the subsidies, the money that goes into wind energy, electronic cars, the research for them, what kind of money are we talking about here?
Well, for wind power, the government subsidizes wind generation up to $695 million a year. For electric cars, the government subsidizes the purchase of electric cars, and last year that program cost approximately $22 million for the purchase of just less than 3,000 electric or hybrid plug-in vehicles. So those are the costs right now. Now that program is likely to increase in costs in the coming years as well. And then we look also at the prevention of oil development so far, which costs the government $978 million in royalties that it is not collecting.
So basically, so at this point though, your study shows that wind energy, electric cars, at this point, it's really not financially viable, right?
That's right. That's why these programs need to be subsidized. That's why wind energy needs to be subsidized and the purchase of electric cars, because they are not competitive with the alternatives at the moment. I mean, we have a lot of hydropower in Quebec, which is equally green, but is competitive. It's a very affordable form of energy. Wind power, on the other hand, is expensive. It costs more to produce than what it is sold for, so it is sold at a loss.
And in terms of energy exploration, you know, because right now you're talking about it's an emotional gut reaction that people have, right? That electricity, wind power, good, oil, bad. And so there is that sense that there shouldn't be any oil exploration. But you're saying it should be just the opposite, right? Just let it go. Allow people to look for these things.
That's right. When we're talking about oil development, of course, we want it to happen in a responsible fashion. But when we talk about these other programs like wind power and electric cars, we're not getting very much out of these programs. So they sound good, they sound like they're eco-friendly, but we don't get a lot of impact from these programs. And for electric cars, for instance, they would have to be, the subsidies would have to be considerably more generous in order to make even a dent in the number of cars on the road. There are 4.5 million automobiles, passenger vehicles in Quebec right now. Only 3,000 were sold last year, electric cars.
Because if I understand your study correctly, then you're basically saying that the government shouldn't be subsidizing any of these sectors, and that you're saying once something is financially viable, the private enterprises will get in there anyway, right?
That's right. At the moment, there are companies that are interested in developing oil in the Gaspé region on Anticosti Island. At a certain point, wind power may become competitive with other forms of energy, and if it does, private companies will want to develop wind farms. And electric cars, if they become more affordable, more people will want to buy them without having to be subsidized by the government.
Your study makes a lot of sense, but it's not easy to sell politically. So are you optimistic? Do you think governments will listen to this kind of argument?
Well, the government did release some studies recently, a few weeks ago, which seem to suggest that they are open to oil development in Quebec. That's a hopeful sign. As for these other programs, we'll have to wait and see what they decide to do. But if they, altogether, the subsidies that could be saved and the royalties that could be earned, we're talking about $1.7 billion a year that the Quebec Treasury could have. Now, they could spend that money on debt relief, healthcare, lowering Quebecers' tax burdens, $1.7 billion that's on the table.
Well, thank you so much for this. If you want more information on the study, there it is, the Montreal Economic Institute. You can go to their website, IEDM.org. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.